When Assassin's Creed Syndicate came out in late 2015, it definitely made some vast improvements on some of the shortcomings of Assassin's Creed Unity. However, in the meantime, it rubbed off as a bit of a piss take of the franchise that it was supposed to be representing, among other things. And in this video, we're going to be talking about 5 bad or otherwise unwelcome things in Assassin's Creed Syndicate. Now please do bear in mind that if you differ in opinion to me or have more to add, then that's what the comment section is there for. Don't be afraid to let me know. That wasn't intended to come out as quite condescending, but it did. Fuck. Now please do bear in mind that this video isn't intended to hate. The fact that Assassin's Creed Syndicate is in fact the latest Assassin's Creed entry to the AAA games in the franchise makes it crucial that this video is done of all the ones, even if that means it's only a little bit more important than the other ones. With all that being said, I see no point in sticking around looking at all these random montages of things going on and actually getting into the video. So at number 5 we have got the setting. Now London as a city in the game is actually really nice. It's alive, it feels like a great place, it's atmospheric. However, the setting itself had a really strange, gloomy overhang that made the entire game somewhat depressing. On top of that, we have the city's architecture. The city's architecture was no way complementary to the Assassin's Creed playstyle. In fact, you had to use a rope launcher, something so out of place that it almost made me not want to buy the game to make it work. If it needs something that is so out of place to make the game work and function as Assassin's Creed, then it was a really risky setting to do. Now hats off to Ubisoft for what they did, but I don't feel as if Victorian London, although the city felt alive for other reasons other than the setting, was exactly the best place to set an Assassin's Creed game. I may hear you ask, what's wrong with it? Well, the streets are so wide that you cannot actually use the parkour to the full extent and resort to using that rope launcher, or otherwise known as a grapple hook, to get across the world a bit too much. If you don't mind the tedious and time-consuming task of climbing down every building that you actually come across just because you don't want to use the grappling hook, then that's up to you. However, I feel as if the grappling hook was forced into the game because the setting wasn't on its own complementary for Assassin's Creed on the sole reason that is the architecture. And it's not necessarily with how the buildings are, it's just how they're placed. So it's not even the architecture, it's how they're laid out. They're too far apart because the big streets in London are quite wide. So all in all, when it comes to the setting, I'm not the biggest of fans. Next up we have the overall feel of the game. Now, one of the best feelings about the older Assassin's Creed games that got me hooked was the historical feeling of being in a setting that actually interested me. Victorian London, Jack the Ripper aside, by the way you fucking butchered that as well Ubisoft, was of little interest to me. Now, I've always been a better fan of the colourful periods like the Golden Age of Piracy or the Renaissance or the Crusades. But with Victorian London, A, it was too close to the modern day that the feel sort of crossed over a little bit, and B, the industrial setting gave the game an overall gloomy feel, which didn't really sit with its, how do I put this, piss-take nature. Harsh, I know. But the gloomy feeling really didn't sit with Assassin's Creed either. I've always been a fan of, like I said, the settings that aren't so gloomy and have more to them. They have more layers and more colour. Whereas with Assassin's Creed Syndicate, everything felt black and white, even though the pixels were coloured. On top of this, the characters didn't fit in with this gloomy setting too much, as they were literally the Victorian London equivalent of Dick and Dom. Except Jacob was both Dick and Dom with the mental capacity of a monkey with 3 knives. And Evie was so underused that she just didn't fit at all. Obviously, having characters so comedic in a setting that's meant to be very, very, very gloomy definitely didn't add together very well. It's almost like learning mathematics from somebody who believes that 2 + 2 = 5. On top of this character not mixing issue with the setting and each other, you can definitely tell that I'm just not a fan of the setting because of its overall gloominess. Now, I don't mind run-down, gloomy areas in the games, that's actually perfect. However, with Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the entire game felt gloomy. Like, everything. Like, when I mean everything felt gloomy. Even Jacob Fry's consistent dad jokes. However, it doesn't go amiss that the city actually felt alive, which is actually a good thing. However, I just wish the setting was less gloomy overall, because the industrial setting is always going to be very gloomy, because everything's all smoggy and stuff, the attire is dirty, and all in all, I just wasn't a fan. I feel as if that's the bottom line. For my next point, I needn't do much besides from fuck me in the dick. I needn't really do much besides from flick between these two images, because we are talking about the skill trees. Now, the skill trees in Assassin's Creed Syndicate were advertised as Jacob and Evie would have different skills and they'd specialise in different things. Ha ha ha, bollocks. The skill tree is the exact same for Jacob and Evie, except each have 3 unique skills that only they can unlock. However, it's sat there annoyingly on the other skill tree as well, which means that it never looks complete, which is very annoying. But also, on top of that, in gameplay you notice no real difference between how you do things as Jacob or Evie. They do things the exact same way. The only thing that Jacob has different is that he has a more aggressive combat opening, I think it is, and with Evie she can just sit down and turn invisible. What fucking use is that? The skill tree definitely was one of the worst things in the game, because it was one of the things that was done so half-heartedly and rushed, I think, because it was just one skill tree which they smacked together and created this mess of, oh, Evie's more stealth appropriate, but no, they're the exact fucking same, besides from the fact that Evie can turn invisible and Jacob can punch people harder, that little bit. I'm sure my brother really appreciates this while he sleeps. The skill tree was marketed as a major thing in the diversity between Jacob and Evie Fry. However, both skill trees are virtually the exact same, which means that they did a great injustice to their advertising, which is actually kind of saddening, because having 2 characters, you may as well have them specialise in different things instead of having them the same exact shit. Next up, we have the restrictive gameplay. Now, in Assassin's Creed Syndicate, the gameplay is highly restricted as a response to try to fix the jumpy mess that was the gameplay in Assassin's Creed Unity, which wasn't at all what it was intended to be. However, in the process of making it more down to earth and grounded and less floaty, they actually made the gameplay very restricted. What I mean by that is you can no longer throw yourselves from buildings, which is very annoying, because if you're like me, you're probably fed up with the path that Assassin's Creed's been taking for the past few years and just want it to end. Of course, I mean my life, not Assassin's Creed. However, on a serious note, the restrictive gameplay made gameplay at some points quite hard, and you didn't feel as if you were actually going anywhere, because you just randomly stop at the edge of the building, maybe in a chase that means you have to take to the rooftops and you don't want to use the rope launcher, or you can use the rope launcher, or maybe you just want to chance a long jump that you may or may not get, but you wish to risk it anyway as it's the only way to continue. And with these things sort of restricted by the gameplay, you feel as if you're not really playing it but being handheld a little bit too much. I get that it doesn't want you to continuously desynchronize just for the sake of throwing yourself off a tall building. However, I would have loved to jump off of Big Ben and kill myself just that once, just to prove that I've done it. Assassin's Creed has always been about jumping about on rooftops as part of its open world experience, something that you simply cannot do if you cannot jump. Yeah, the gameplay's gotten so restrictive that they've actually removed the fucking jump button. And you can really only jump if there is something to jump down and grab or onto. These petty restrictions actually made the gameplay a little less satisfying and a little less pleasant than it perhaps could have been. And finally, we have the imbalance between playing as Jacob and playing as Evie. For every Evie mission that actually furthered the story in the game, there were at least 3 or 4 pointless Jacob missions where you go around killing people for the fuck of it. For joint protagonists, you'd think they'd be 50-50 with the missions, but no. Evie got only a handful of missions throughout the game, whereas Jacob got the vast majority. The lack of Evie missions made it hard to actually get to know Evie, whereas we quickly come to the conclusion that Jacob is an idiot, which makes us mean for the majority of the game we play as an idiot with brash decision making skills and the mental age of a 3-year-old with a flamethrower, a really large flamethrower, and every now and then we would be graced with the occasional Evie mission in which we do something that actually furthers the story a little bit. On occasion, very rarely, almost to the extent that it was pointless, which makes you think, why the hell is she there anyway? We can barely get to know or get to like her because she's so not present throughout the majority of it, and then there's the odd mission where she is. Sometimes we'll get sequences that, you know, have a couple of Evie missions, which were probably the better sequences in the game, in fairness, but at the same time we didn't nearly get to know Evie enough in missions, and honestly I feel as if Evie as a character was overall very wasted in the game. The imbalance was honestly a shame, and if they ever go with a double protagonist thing, which honestly doesn't work for Assassin's Creed, then they really need to revise their balancing when it comes to who gets which missions, and it needs to be more 50-50 split than 80-20 or 90-10 or whatever it was. And there you have it. There are 5 bad things in Assassin's Creed Syndicate in my opinion. Now I could definitely make a follow-up video to this one because there are a lot of things in Syndicate that really make my blood boil. But then again, I could say that for the majority of the other Assassin's Creed games. But anyway guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed. Be sure to comment some of the things that you disliked about Assassin's Creed Syndicate in the comment section down below. That, or if you wish to disagree with me or add to any of my points, then that is also welcomed. But I will see you all in the next one. Be sure to go ahead and leave a like, subscribe, share, comment. See you soon. See ya.